For most of you, well, you know this program, you know me, but for new friends, my name is Shenzhan Liao. I'm in charge of the education program at China Institute. Welcome to Lunch and Learn. I'm here hosting the program with my colleague Yongqiang. Yongqiang, 你在哪里？
我在这儿。大家好，我是永强，欢迎大家来到午间中文。
Yeah, I can see some of you are well on the camera. Some of you are on off, which is fine. Hello, Tina. Yeah, so we are recording the session as well. We post the recordings on China Institute's YouTube channel, so you can go back and access whenever you want and make it completely accessible for the future. So again, we are following a similar format. We're going to look into a classical Chinese poem, a short poem that we can read aloud together. It's okay, you haven't studied Chinese language or poetry before, because well, we're going into word by word, and we have both Chinese and English. And we also will talk more about the culture, the history, some of the imageries that the poem may refer to, especially the one that we are reading today. As usual, we will have a writing session that, where is my pen? Oh my God. We write one character that I will select from the poem, and we can look into the etymology a little bit of that character. We cannot cover every single character in the poem even, but it's just a window of learning how the writing system evolves, as well as get a hands-on experience of writing the characters, and they are fantastic. So then I want to bring up this breakout session, which we almost never have time to go into. But if we do have time, we will break the group into two sessions that where we can practice a little bit more. So without further ado, let me open the screen. Oh, that's my email. Now you know the secrets of China Institute. 好的，今天我们要读的诗是锦瑟。Well, some of you may be familiar with this character, Jin, right? Anybody remember?
It's like metal, like something it's got the metal radical. So, and I think it was like brocade or something. So it could be like colorful.
Right. Well, thank you, Xiao. And we learned this character, Jin. It's colorful. It's actually, well, the metal refers also the original 5 different colors that's referred in this character. But while you would notice the original meaning, as Xiaoan mentioned, is colorful, is brocade. Why the translation here is the Sad Zither? We will find out. So frankly speaking, I have to give you a heads up. This is a little, in my opinion, it's a little bit challenging, the poem itself, but I feel I compelled really to share this poem with you today. The theme I mentioned last session for the entire season is about love. So the poem that we are selecting today is following this theme, and we will know why later as well we read this poem. Just a little bit about Li Shangyin. Li Shangyin. sorry. The poet, he's considered, this is the first poem we are reading of him, by him. He's considered one of the greatest poets in late Tang Dynasty, born in early 9th century, that it's already towards the last maybe 50 years of Tang Dynasty. At this point, we know if you're a poet, if you're writing poems, it's not easy to be remembered as a poet because, well, there have been so many great poets and many great poems written already, especially if you're born after Li Bai, Du Fu, or Wang Wei. Many others have been born before you. However, in the 300 Tang poems, Tang Shi 300首, compiled in 18th century, a much cited and influential collection of Tang poems for later generations until today. Li Shangyin's poem, the number of Li Shangyin's poem are number 4 in this collection, only after Li Bai, Du Fu, and Wang Wei. So among, I can say among the stars of Tang poets, Li Shangyin is remembered particularly as a poet known for using images and symbols to address the most elusive feelings of all, that is love, that we're going to read today. And that's also one of the reasons I feel it's a little bit challenging because of the symbols and images that have a lot of cultural meanings behind it. So we need to first look into the stories behind the symbols he mentioned before we can actually get to the meaning. But let's take a look at this poem together in its entirety. This has 8 lines. You can see the first line, the second one divided by the comma, that's added much later. But for new friends, we have the title, well, the poem in Chinese characters and the pinyin on each one of them. Also, we have the English translation by Xu Yuanchong. He's one of the best known Chinese translators, especially of classical poems or classical works. And what we can see here, well, he's taking some liberty, even from the title, the Sad Zither. We can say Se is a Chinese music instrument, and it's literally, in this case, translated as zither. But where is the sad coming from? Because, well, essentially, the character Jin means colorful, literally. So we will read the poem together and we will see how you feel about the translation. Because as well, many of you already know, we selected the translation carefully, but there is no perfect translation, especially in the case of poetic. In this case, in Chinese classical poetry and perhaps in any poetry or literature. All right, so I will read the entire poem in Chinese. You can read. I would ask you to mute yourself at this point. We will unmute and read together later, but at this point, if you could just mute yourself and you may silently read after me or read aloud after me. I just want to make sure for those who are working on pronunciation, can hear my reading clearly. All right, so 锦瑟，锦瑟无端50弦，一弦一柱思华年。庄生晓梦 迷蝴蝶，
Yes.
望帝春心托杜鹃。沧海月明珠有泪，蓝田日暖玉生烟。此情可待成追忆，只是当时已惘然。Don't worry, we will go word by word after this, but at this moment, I just want everyone to hear the pronunciation and the rhythm. And I have a chance also to look at the English translation to get the meaning across. We will not be able to go into the details of explaining all the meanings of the characters and the poem. But I hope, well, this will get to the gist of the poem. But I do want to mention, this is considered to be a longer poem we are reading. We had a lot of quatrain, which has how many lines? Can anyone tell me? For quatrain, 绝句.
It's 4 lines.
绝句是4句. 4 lines for quatrains. So this is not a quatrain. This has 8 lines. What is this? 这是什么？唐诗的
Act.
唐诗的类型是什么？ What's the type of this? It has 8 lines. Each one, you can see, has 7 characters. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Each line has 7 characters. It is
七言绝句。
七言. It's not a 绝句. 七言律诗. It's the regulated verse. 绝句 only has 4 lines, and 律诗 has 8 lines. It's also almost like, well, it's 2 quatrains paired up together. So, but while the most regulated part is actually the second pair here and the third pair here. So every 2 lines are a pair. The first one, the first pair, second pair, third, and the fourth. The second, sorry, I apologize for the PowerPoint today. The second and the third pair are most regulated with very strict rules, theoretically, especially for the pronunciation, the rhythm, meanings, and forms of the word, all need to be complement to each other. So this is, and this is perhaps, well, as a long poem, as long as what we can handle within 1 hour of lunch and learn. And we will go into that a little bit more, not too much, so you can really see the what I mentioned, the pronunciation, the rhythm, the meaning and forms of the words in the pairs need to complement each other later. So now I want to explain 色. As I mentioned, it's a music instrument. It's an ancient music instrument from more than 3,000 years ago. Why I can say that confidently? Because this 色, this character, appeared in the Book of Songs, and that was before 500 BC, compiled poems and songs from China. So this character and this instrument, you can see there is a 19th century 色 at the Metropolitan Museum. And next to it, it's a contemporary version. So people are still playing this instrument, but not exactly. This is not called 色 today. This is called 筝. You may hear some contemporary Chinese musicians are still playing this instrument, which look looks very similarly to 色. This is how 色 is played. Actually, not 色, sorry. The 筝 was played just a couple of weeks ago at China Institute. We had a full family festival and we had musicians from Bard College came to play. And the one in the middle is playing a version of 筝 very much, and you can see very much like the 色 here. So there is a connection very closely between these two instruments. But if you ask musicians today in China, almost unless, well, someone is really trying to replicate the antiquity of the music instrument, otherwise you will hear they are playing 筝 instead of 色. But for our purpose today, we know there is something about this instrument in this poem. Okay, so now we will read each character, each line much more slowly. You can see more clearly the top line, the pinyin with tones. The second one is the character. The third one is the literal translation of each character. As you can see, it would not make sense grammatically. And the last line is the poetic translation by Xu Yuanchong. I have to mention this literal translation I was adapting from François Cheng, the author of the Chinese poetic writing. I changed a little bit, but well, mostly it's his literal translation. He even didn't bother to give a poetic translation of the entire poem as well, because this poem has so many symbols to refer to. But I'm happy we did find a Xu Yuanchong, the Chinese translator's version. So let's read together first. 景 色 无 端 五 十 闲 Now one more time, I will pause in the middle. 景色无端
Uh-oh.
Doing that today, sorry. 50弦
50弦
All right, so next one. I keep posing this question. The literal translation is ornate zither. And the poetic translation is the sad zither. Why the translator feel justified, well, to make that liberty of translation here. And the next one, yi, 弦 yi, 注 资 华 年 一弦一柱 丝华年 So note this E here. The first one is fourth tone, E. The second one is the second tone, E. It's the same character, but depends on the tone of the character it is preceding, the tone changes just for this character. I don't want you get too overwhelmed by the rules of pronunciations of pinyin, but just you may notice, well, it's exactly the same character, why it's pronounced differently, and that's the reason. So one more time, the entire line, 一弦一柱思华年。
一弦一柱思华年。
是华年。
下一个，庄
庄
生
小
梦
迷苦蝶庄生小梦迷蝴蝶。So I have to pause here now as we get into this line. It's mentioning a name here. What is the name? Can anyone tell me the name, that a name of a person that's mentioned in this line?
庄生
很好，谢谢。庄生 The last name is Zhuang. Who knows who's Zhuang Sheng in this poem?
Well, because there's a butterfly, it must be Zhuangzi, the philosopher.
很好，谢谢 Angela， 是你回答的对吗 Angela? Yeah. Do you know the story, 庄生 and 蝴蝶? Can you share?
Yes, I think, well, I may get it a little wrong. Zhuangzi dreamed that he was a butterfly, and when he woke up, he was not sure. He thought, was I a man dreaming I was a butterfly, or am I now a butterfly dreaming I'm a man? I can't tell.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Anyone else, if you have any different version or different anything add to the story? 没有. Yeah, well,
who else is going? Someone else had something. Was that
anyone? Yeah, go ahead, Xiaoan.
Okay, I was going to say that I feel like I was reading something about the butterfly paradox, and it said that like there's the version of him being the man that's not sure if he's the butterfly, but then there's somebody else that thinks that another part might be from the butterfly's perspective, like, you know, that the second, but I'm not sure if it was reliable source what I was reading, but part of the thing may have actually been the butterfly and not the man.
Yeah.
That was interesting.
Yeah. Thanks for sharing, for both of you. So the gist of the story, while you may hear different versions, but it is coming from Zhuangzi as well. Many of you know Zhuangzi, also by the name of Zhuangzhou. In this case, it's Zhuang Sheng. Sheng means scholar or a young man, or this literal meaning, but it's referring to one of his essays in his 齐物论. Zhuangzi is a representative of Taoism in Chinese philosophical schools. So he's after Laozi. Laozi was born around 570 BC in China. So Zhuangzi was only a couple of hundred years after Laozi. But Laozi and Zhuangzi both are the most known representatives of Taoism in Chinese philosophy. One of his essays is about this dream that while talking about he himself turned into a butterfly in the dream, flying freely, and feeling himself as a butterfly. And when he wakes up, he's pondering: is he Zhuangzi, or is he Zhuangzi, or is he the butterfly? Is the butterfly in his dream, or is he in the butterfly's dream? So this entire line with 7 characters is really referring to the elusiveness of reality and dream. And then we start to get into something more than what the music instrument is referring, and then get to perhaps the theme of the entire poem. Let's see what's the next line. Yeah, I'm having trouble. I will just stop sharing for a moment and reshare. It seems and I hope I can share again. Okay, just 1 second. I don't know why. Okay, this is the next line. Let's read together. Wang,
on,
Di, Chun, Xin,
xin,
Tuo,
tuo,
Du,
du,
Juan,
juan,
Wang Di Chun Xin,
望帝春生，
春心，
托杜鹃。
多杜鹃。
So here again, we can pause and learn something more about what the story is behind this line. So we have another name here of a person. Can you identify the name here?
望
很好。
皇帝，
望
Wang.
That's Wong.
That's an emperor, but not the not 秦始皇帝.
Okay,
Not-
sorry.
Oh, it's all right. It's all right. Yeah, Wang Di. Di is
Wang Di.
emperor. Yeah, Wang is the name of the emperor.
Mhm.
So here, well, we can see the parallelism here. We have Zhuangsheng in the last line, and here we start with Wang Di. So as I mentioned, well, the rules for regulated verse, well, the form of the words need to be complement. In this case, well, it's identical. You have a name in the first line, you have another name in the second line. And if you could hear Zhuangsheng, the pronunciation are first tones. It's the high pitch. It's going up. And then we have Wang Di.
望
That's
帝
fourth
also
tone. That's going down. So we have Zhuangsheng and we have Wang Di. Both are names of
望帝
right. Both are names of people as referred, and the pronunciations are opposite to each other to form that kind of rhythm we can hear in the poem. All right, so anybody knows the story of Wang Di? And then as a hint, well, here we have 蝴蝶, right, in the first line. And we can make a good guess given the parallelism we're talking about here. And Du Juan has something to do with Wang Di. Well, this is exactly why sometimes it's challenging to understand the poems, because, well, especially in Li Shangyin's case, he uses a lot of symbols or stories or references referring to what he's trying to express. But if you don't know the story, actually, it will be very hard to understand what's behind the line. So I will quote from Francois Cheng's version as well, the story of Wang Di and Du Juan. The legend says Emperor Wang of Shu Kingdom, that's in southwest of China, that's where Sichuan province is today. The emperor became so sad, inconsolable after his love, his favorite concubine, passed away. And he even abandoned his throne and disappeared. That's a very short version of the story, but it's obviously well known and very popular, at least in Li Shangyin's time. I'm sorry. So Li Shangyin feels, well, to even just to mention the story for people to read the poem would get the meaning behind it, the love story of Wang Di and something to do with Du Juan. So now what's interesting about Du Juan is it's the name of a bird. As you can see, the literal translation is turtle dove. And in Xu Yuanchong's poetic translation, it's cuckoo's cry. I just want to pose the question. So in English, does these two translations make a difference for you to feel, well, what these birds stand for?
Yes, I think it makes a big difference.
Mm-hmm. Can you elaborate, Angela?
Well, I would associate turtle doves with love, the cooing sound. They're often a metaphor for lovers. But a cuckoo, we know that cuckoos invade the nest of other birds. They're not a particularly positive symbol in our culture, I would say. So they're quite different in feeling, these birds.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. Yeah, anyone want to add? Yeah, because well, to me, for example, I'm not an English native speaker. I have a feeling about Du Juan because of this poem. As well, this bird is related to the story. So the second part of the story is he became so inconsolable, and he disappeared, and his soul transformed into Du Juan, the bird. So in this poem, the Chinese Du Juan really is representing or symbolizing this love to a relatively extreme stand. But while the translation turtle dove or cuckoo would make a big difference for English native speaker to have a feeling of this bird and the story. Incidentally, Du Juan is also the name of a flower that's popular, widespread in the Shu Kingdom.
Azalea?
Even
Azaleas?
that's again another like what would be the word in English to translate the flower, right? I have a photo of the flower.
That's right, azaleas.
Azalea.
Yeah.
Azaleas.
Mm-hmm. So you can see the symbols all connected. The bird to the story, and the bird is a representation of love. And I myself, I looked into turtle dove because, well, even Shakespeare wrote a poem of the phoenix and the turtle, and referring to love and death. So I would like, my understanding would be turtle dove maybe more as a translation closer to what Du Juan would represent. And the Chinese translation here, the cuckoo, may completely have a different, generate a different emotion. And the flower, it's bright, it's red, and well, it's really representing, because the legend also says Du Juan it spills blood when it cries. So that will also to represent the sadness to its extreme in this story. So again, as now it's becoming more apparent, this is a love poem, and there's a center story here, and how it will continue. We start with Zhuangsheng. Actually, before that, we start with the Zither.
Yichen.
Say it again. Oh, it's all right. And then now we get to the love story. And what's next? Let's read together. Cang
苍
Tang,
海
海
月
月
明
明
珠
珠
有
有
泪
泪
沧海月明
沧海月明
珠有泪
珠有泪
okay.
So now we have relatively familiar symbols here. We have the sea, we have the moon, the pearls with tears, even though the literal translation doesn't connect to the full sentence making sense. But well, you could picture the images of these items together. But really, it also brings us out from the stories that we just read. And how do you feel? What do you feel that you're connected with through this line? Anyone want to share? So we have 海, 月, 珠. These are all start to connect to the nature. And especially in this case, later we can see it's the ocean, it's the sky, and connected to the universe. And one major characteristics of classical poem in Chinese culture is the ultimate goal is to make connection between the heaven and the earth through man, through human. The poet himself, in this case, Li Shangyin, is the man that's connecting human, earthly emotions and feelings with the universe, with the nature. So this is not only in perhaps in classical Chinese poetry, but in all traditional forms of fine art in China, including calligraphy, music, painting, to seek that connection between the heaven and the earth, and man being, or human being, the key connector here. And to the poets, it's through the poem, the poetic writing. So next one, let's see what brings to the sky. Lan,
蓝
Then,
田,
田
日,
日
日
暖,
暖
蓝田日暖,
蓝田
日暖
玉
玉
玉
生
生
烟
烟
蓝田日暖
蓝天
日圆，
玉上
玉生烟。
又上香烟。
and
So here we also have the earth and the sky. Can you identify the characters that's referring to the earth and the sky?
田
田，对的。
earth
日，对的。还有没有？
还有烟，
还有烟，对的。Oh, 烟 is very important. It's the mist, it's the incense. It's always, well, when you burn the incense, well, you connect the earth and the sky, right? And we also have yu. Yu is jade. Yu is something from the earth. It's a very valued earthly element, the mineral part. So in these two lines, well, we are actually connecting some major elements in traditional Chinese culture. Well, we have the mist, we have water. The jade, 金木水, yeah. 土 is earth, right? And then we have coming from the ocean, the 海, we have the water here too. Yeah. So let's see what all of these, the stories, the elements, the major elements, what the connection, well, between the human and the nature bring us to the last two lines. Let's read first. 子情
情
可
可
待
带
成
成
追
追
忆
忆
此情可待
可
情可待
成追忆
成
追忆
此情可待成追忆。
可情
可待成追忆。
So we, at this point, I feel, well, this line particularly is coming to the end, and it's pointing out the key theme of this poem. Can you identify what's the character representing? Or at least from this line, that which one speaks to you?
是情
情有没有不同的 anyone choose a different theme, different character, or everybody agrees?
Well,
I think
or-
is important, the memory.
忆 yeah 很好
but
还有没有
they both have the heart radical, so they're connected. Passion becomes memory.
That's a very good observation too. Yeah. Well, one thing, I don't have a one answer because it's a poem and everybody feels differently. Maybe Qing speaks to you more loudly than Yi, or maybe the other way around. But well, I have to say, it's a good observation. You can notice there is a radical that's identical. Qing and Yi both have the heart radical here. And let's see and it's connecting the passion, when you feel it, it may be really real, but when it's becoming a memory, what it becomes. The last line. 只是当时只是 当时
只是当
只
时
是当时
以
以
往
往
然，
然
只是当时已惘然。
只是当时以往然。
Yeah, so here we have another heart radical. 惘然往. Yeah. And then I love the last two lines translation. Well, maybe because it does not have all the symbols and everything there, but it really is connecting how you feel, especially these three characters. I would say the qing, yi. Sorry, I'm just getting frustrated by this PowerPoint today. Sorry. And Wang here. Okay, let's take a look at the entire poem again. And maybe I will later ask Yongqiang to lead the reader aloud again, the entire poem. But I want to point out in this regulated verse, we do have a lot of hearts in it. Well, the heart that is here, 春心, xin itself is heart. And then we have qing, the heart becomes the radical. And then we have yi. And then we have wang. The three characters with heart radical in the last two lines. Do we see other heart?
First
in
line,
this?
思.
对的, 思, and then we learned this character before. Remember? From, yeah, you have the head at the top and you have a heart in the bottom, and that's to think in Chinese. 思. Yeah, so it's if you imagine picturing this poem is not written in today's simplified Chinese characters, but in some of the antiquity form. And the character, because Chinese characters are so pictographic and ideographic, the hearts perhaps will jump out even more visibly when you look at the writing of the poem. So before we get to the writing part, can anyone share how do you feel about the first line? 锦瑟无端50弦，一弦一柱思华年. Anyone? Again, there's no one definitive answer. There's music instrument, ornated music instrument.
Yeah,
and
it feels,
yeah,
sorry.
Alex, please.
Yeah, it feels like it's looking at a very nice instrument, but the writer, the poet is just thinking about, one string represents 1 year or some time of missing someone. It's counting down the time of loss, represented by the 50, because I guess in ancient China, they play this instrument as a way to express their feelings as well. So
thank you for sharing. Yeah, instrument is definitely, because it speaks to the heart directly. It starts with this instrument, and we don't know where this instrument coming from. Maybe the poet himself is playing it and thinking about, well, 华年. 华 means, like, literal translation, flower. So maybe his colorful or thriving, youthful years. that will making him thinking about his passion, his love in the past.
Yeah, and especially, you know, it says 50 strings, right? So if you actually count it, it could be like 50 years. You know?
Could be,
Yeah.
could be, yeah. And also, 色 as an instrument typically has 25 strings, not 50 strings. So that's the reason here he says 无端 for no reason. He himself or in the poem, it does not explain why the zither has 50. That may refer to his age while he's writing this poem. And qin, as well, we see this character here, qin, for passion is qin. And actually for zither type of Chinese instrument, the character is different in writing, but the pronunciation is also qin. Very close. Yeah, so even in pronunciation, there is a reference there. And that qin, the se as one of the qin, is representing this qin, the passion. How? Oh my God, the time is passing very fast. Lin Lao Shi, do you want to? Yeah, let's read aloud one more time, and well, we have like 5 minutes to write the character.
Yes. Okay, thank you, Shenjan. So I will read the entire poem in Chinese first. So you just need to listen and think about the meaning or all the thing you have learned. And then the second time you can follow me to read it. Okay, let's start. 锦瑟，锦瑟无端50弦，一弦一柱思华年。庄生晓梦迷蝴蝶，望帝春心托杜鹃。沧海月明珠有泪，蓝田日暖玉生烟。此情可待成追忆，只是当时已惘然。Okay, let's do the second time so you can read it
So
after me.
can I, sorry, Yongqiang, can I interject? Shall we do the challenge part without pinyin? So that you pause after your reading, so everybody can follow.
Okay, sure. Okay, let's start. 锦瑟，
锦瑟，
很好。锦瑟无端50弦，
锦瑟无端50弦，
一弦一柱思华年。
一弦一柱思华年。
庄生晓梦迷蝴蝶，
皇上晓梦迷蝴蝶。
望帝春心托杜鹃。
望见
春心
春信
杜鹃。沧海月明珠有泪。
沧海
月明
珠有泪。蓝田日暖玉生烟。
蓝天日暖
玉生烟。
此情可待成追忆。
此情
可待成
追忆。
只是当时已惘然。
致使当时已
惘然。
Okay, yeah, 还不错。It's not that bad. Okay, thank you.
太容易。
也不太容易。Yes, 很长 right?
Yeah. All right.
Yeah.
谢谢林老师，谢谢大家。So quickly, as well, you may have guessed, well, today we will write 情 as 此情可待成追忆. And well, if you have studied Chinese, you may know 爱情. We studied I last session. So 爱情 together. 还是, well, it's 爱情. And we can also say 情感, feelings, emotions. And also 亲情, the feelings, well, the among families mostly, it's 亲情 and 友情, friendship. 那情字, 古时候, in ancient time, how do we write 情? Here, in Xu Sheng's time, oops, you have this heart, as you can see on the left side. And this side in itself is qing. And we've learned this one too, right? Anyone remember? Qing.
It's like greenish blue.
Blue.
Yeah. Yeah, 谢谢小安. Wow, you remember everything. So this is, well, it's in Xu Sheng in 100 AD when this book was written, the writer was, this qing is representing the pronunciation of this entire character. The left part is more related to the meaning. The right part is more related to the pronunciation. So altogether, this character is qing. And if we see this part in itself, and that's the character xin. So we know there is the hard part there. And to me, actually, this qing, yes, it's representing the pronunciation, but as what we learned, the top part is the plants, the vegetations growing out from the bottom part is a field. So even the character, the meaning of the character itself, it means it represents something growing, something coming out from the earth or from the field or the field of your heart. So I would actually say it's not just because of the pronunciation. There is a meaningful part that's related to the right part, qing, to the entire meaning of qing as well. So I will stop sharing now, as well we have 3 minutes. Let's get to the writing part. I have my brush pen here, and you can use any paper, any pen that you like, and we can write the character together. And Lin Lao Shi, if you could, yeah, bring the 写字板 part. This is, okay, let me turn off my, so let's see. So I will write the ancient form first. So it's really like drawing a picture. Start from the left part. And the right. But make sure you leave a space in between. This is the shape of the heart, and then you have this is like the vines coming out. One longer, one shorter. And then the qing, the right part, you have like the leaves, branches coming out, the crops coming out from the field, the layers of the earth. Maybe.
Hi, Martin. Good afternoon. Happy Friday.
And we can hear a phone conversation. If you could mute yourself. And the middle line. Yeah. And then the longer, so this one is longer. There's like almost, there's a two, if you can see here too. And then the bottom part, this is slightly longer than the left slant line. And then we have 3 shorter lines connecting both vertical lines here, representing the field. And this is we call 小篆, the small seal or minor seal style. And as well, you could imagine now a lot of the seals, the stamps, the Chinese stamps would use this style. So I don't want to give you the impression this is how we write the character today, even though it looks not too far. Let's write the simplified version together. So the 偏旁, the radical, becomes more straight. And then I would do this line, this dot on the top a little bit. And then the 3 shorter lines first. This one is the shortest. This one is also short. And then you have the vertical, the longer one. So today it's almost like it's a yue. It's like the moon. It's writing exactly like the moon in today's simplified version. But we know it's not representing moon, actually, in the original form. And this is Qing. Yeah, that's our writing today. Very good. 谢谢. Yeah, if you want to show me how you write, you can put it up to your screen. This is, yeah. Oh my God, Angela, you wrote so many. And Samantha, 谢谢. Sorry if I don't. Yeah, this is my version just next to me. Yeah, oops, here. Yeah. 好的，谢谢. So if you have time, well, let's read the poem one more time together, but I know we're already passing 1 hour, so if you need to go, see you next time. That's going to be a, let me see, Friday again, November 4th. Yeah, so let me bring back the poem and we can read this one more time together. Yeah. So feel free to turn on your camera or speaker mic so we can all hear each other. Yeah. From the top, 锦瑟.
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 锦瑟无端50弦.
锦瑟无端50弦.
一弦一柱思华年.
一弦一柱思华年。
庄生晓梦迷蝴蝶。
庄生晓梦迷蝴蝶。
望帝春心托杜鹃。
望帝春心托杜鹃。
沧海月明珠有泪。
沧海
月明珠有泪。
蓝田日暖玉生烟。
蓝
天
日
日
暖
暖玉生烟，
此情可待成追忆。
此
情
可
待
待
成春意。
只是当时已惘然。
只是当时已惘然。
That's it. That's our poem. And I will leave it up to you whether you like the title, the Sad Zither or not.
景色，
景色 Yeah.
景色。
好的，谢谢大家。
OK，谢谢您。
谢谢，
谢谢。
Thank you so much.
谢谢，Thank you。
谢谢，周末愉快。Yeah, 如果
下个月
你们有
再见。
问题 if any questions, well, we will be around for a couple of more minutes.